Thank you for taking some time for yourself, and as you find a comfortable position, you might notice how it naturally helps you relax. Most people find themselves pointing fingers, shifting blame. Everyone's been there. Caught up in the cycle. You already know how to breathe, to let go of those excuses. And if you feel like closing your eyes, you may notice how it enhances your sense of ease. Some people never realize they're trapped in this cycle. Most of us have felt the weight of the blame. It's a very common experience to deflect fault, to find someone else to carry it. Everyone craves freedom from this burden. You might allow yourself to breathe deeply, sensing each breath bringing relaxation. And you've known all along how to break free. Maybe there was a time when you didn't realize you had this power. If it feels right for you, you can focus on the gentle rhythm of your breath, letting it guide you into relaxation. And sooner or later, everyone yearns for release. In every culture, there's a longing for accountability. It gives everyone a sense of pleasure to let go, to breathe away from blaming everything else. Feel free to let your body settle into whatever position feels most comfortable to you. And I'm sure you've heard of karma getting. You know, when everyone's vibes are all out of whack, and then bam, it's like everything's a total bummer, man. And if it resonates with you, you might visualize inhaling peace with each breath and exhaling tension. Dealing with addiction is tough. Blaming the substance or urges won't solve it. It's about finding support and taking positive steps forward. And navigating addiction's no walk in the park. But pointing fingers at those cravings won't cut it. It's about facing it head on, seeking help, making strides towards a healthier plan. You've got this. Perfect. You probably already know the heroin addiction rates around the world, including places like Europe, America, and even Scotland. Urban areas like Glasgow have seen their fair shares of struggles with addiction. Factors like easy access to the drug can make the situation even tougher. In some parts of Southeast Asia, like near the Golden Triangle, heroin use is pretty common due to nearby opium-producing areas. Efforts to deal with addiction, like harm reduction programs and rehab services, are ongoing. But despite all that, addiction still remains a major challenge. So it's pretty clear there's a real need for continuous support and initiatives to help folks with heroin addiction, whether it's close to home or across the globe. And I bet you haven't realised how special you are. Your body's an absolute marvel at helping you out. And you're more connected to everything in the universe than you think. You're a whole universe in itself, full of wonder, achievements, and potential. In just a moment, I'll be sharing with you a few stories. And at first you might wonder why. But trust me, your subconscious mind will be listening closely. And who knows, it might just work some magic for you a little later on. And back in 1963, Munch Schmidt stumbled across something pretty wild. Quasars. These babies are like the rock stars of the universe, flickering between red and blue radiation. Turns out, about a quarter of all radio signals we pick up are from these tiny flashy quasars. They might be tiny, but they shine hundreds of times brighter than your average galaxy. And they're chilling millions of light years away. We've clocked over 1,000 of these bad boys since then. Now pulsars, they're a bit closer to home, at least in cosmic terms. They're the aftermath of supernovas going kaboom. And they're hanging out right here in our own Milky Way. We've spotted over 600 of these stellar remnants spread out across the galaxies. Supernova, those massive explosions of dying stars, they're like cosmic drifters, meandering through space until they're pulled in by some other celestial body's gravity. And get this, every year, millions of tons of stardust, rich in minerals and packed with tiny life forms like spores and seeds, rain down on Earth. It's like our planet's getting a constant sprinkle of cosmic magic. Speaking of supernovas, we've got caught in the birth of 10 of them in the last couple of millennia, with the latest one being back in February 87. These explosions are so intense, they break particles into pairs of monopoles, and guess what? We're basically swimming in a soup of positive and negative charges, courtesy of these cosmic fireworks. They zip around at the speed of light, and while we're not entirely sure where they all come from, we know they're bombarding us constantly. But hey, we've got some pretty nifty tools to keep our eye on all this cosmic action. Radio telescopes, optical telescopes, radar lasers, you name it. We're using it to measure stuff billions of light years away. It's like having superpower binoculars that let us peek into the furthest corners of the universe. So check this out. There's some pretty cool research happening right now that's diving into how nature's own math affects both plants and critters, alongside all the cool stuff we've been learning about in space math. Back in 1927, Lang discovered something pretty wild. He found out that animals growing up in darkness, like total darkness, ended up a bit stunted. And then Volcker came along and showed us how our body's own rhythms, like our heartbeat and stuff, can mess with our metabolism, body temperature, even our blood pressure. Now get this, our bodies are like these receivers for electromagnetic vibes, picking up different frequencies of vibrations. And these vibes, they're like little electric signals that tickle our brains. All 7 of our senses are in on this action too. Like certain colours, sounds, just hit you differently, you know. And when it comes to taste, our taste buds are basically like tiny DJs picking up on these pulse vibes in our food and telling us if it's tasty or not. Even the smell and the touch are getting in on the vibe game. And as you probably already know, these pulse vibes aren't just messaging with our senses though. They're also pulling strings on our growth, our behaviour, heck, even our feelings and health. Specific vibes can even affect how we tackle tasks. Ever heard how athletes talk about being in the zone? Yep, that's all about riding the right vibe. And back in the day, God Glecklin found the alignment of planets can even influence someone's personality. Then in 56, Knott showed us how light can mess with our pituitary gland through some fancy retinohypothalamic path. And speaking of light, Wortman snagged a Nobel Prize in 70 for proving how light hitting our eyes can mess with our pineal gland. Then in 73, John Ott dropped some serious knowledge about how both natural and artificial light can shake up plants and animals. And in 79, Holwich showed us how light hitting our peepers can help keep our body's automatic and hormonal processes in check. So yeah, living in this wild world full of monopoles and magnetic vibes, it's no wonder we're all just buzzing with energy. So picture this, electromagnetic vibes, they're like these waves cruising through space, right? And when they hit our bodies, they're like a little dance party for our senses. Like all 7 of them, all tuned up into these pulse vibes. Certain colours or sounds just hit the spot more than others, you know. And speaking of vibes, let's talk about Fibonacci. That dude was totally ahead of his time. Back in 1202, he dropped some serious math magic. With his Fibonacci number sequence, he figured out this stuff just by counting leaf patterns on plants and trees. But get this, these numbers aren't just about plants. They're like the secret sauce for everything, from atoms to galaxies. And when it comes to human performance, music, emotions, you name it, it's all tied up in these numbers. It's like the universe's way of keeping everything in harmony. And then there's this mind-blowing thing called Vesica Pisces. It's like a cosmic blueprint for all shapes. Think of it as the ultimate geometric womb, where all shapes are born. Back in the day, artists and architects used this bad boy to whip up accurate geometric forms way before computers came along. It's like they're tapping into the universe's own blueprint for creation. Wild, right? You know that feeling when you see something so beautiful and it's like your whole body just goes, whoa. Well, part of that magic is how our bodies react to the beauty of, well, themselves. It's like we're hardwired to appreciate our own awesome design. Makes you wonder, right? Like maybe there's something bigger out there. Something beyond our wildest dreams that we're all a part of. And maybe, just maybe, that's why we're also drawn to the beauty of the human form and how we're put together. Walt Whitman said it best. If anything is sacred, the human body is sacred. And you know what? He might just be onto something there. Alright, let's dive into some Latin flair. You know how nut is this fancy word coming from Latin meaning seed or the start of something? Well, back in the day, nut and nux were like 2 peas in a pod, both meaning light and life. Pretty cool, right? Now, when it comes to nutrition, it's all about that life or light in our bodies. almost like we're sucking on sunshine. And guess what? There are several ways we can soak up that sunlight, and munching on plants is one of them. Plants are like little sunlight synthesizers, mixing up light and water to keep themselves going. So when we chomp down on those greens, we're creating this thing called a bolus in our mouths, basically a fancy term for chewed up lump of food. Then it's off to the stomach, as you know, where it gets turned into this soupy mix called chyme. Next stop, the small intestine, where the real magic happens. That chyme, it gets transformed into this smooth, liquidy stuff called chyle, thanks to some special milk movers called lacteals. And here's where things get real wild. Our cells aren't just slurping on this chyle like a milkshake. They're reading these messages encoded in it, like little light-based texts. Then, just like plants, they use that light and water to whip up whatever they need to keep the show running smoothly. But hey, once those messages are all read up, the chyle condenses back into a solid in the colon, where the water gets absorbed back into the body. And you know what they say, out with the old, in with the new. So when we talk about metabolism, it's like the body's way of tossing things around, making changes happen. That whole like attracts like idea is not just some hippie mumbo jumbo. It's a real deal. Whether we're talking about staying healthy or just living our best lives. Alright, let's break it down in simpler terms. You know how you can pack on some extra pounds or shed them depending on what you eat and how active you are? Well, it turns out it's kind of the same deal with your emotions. They're like these little molecules that hang out in our body. Just like fat, they can build up or get released. Now, positive vibes, they're like fuel for your emotional engine. And here's the thing, they need some serious attention to stick around. Positive words, colourful foods, they're like superfoods for your emotions, bringing them from the energy level to the real deal material level where your cells can use them. And let's talk gut feelings. They're not just a myth. Science says your intestines are like a backup brain. And your emotions, they're calling the shots for your whole body's chemistry. So understanding, feeling and letting go of those emotions, it's not just good for the soul, it's crucial for your well-being, even your lifespan. Oh, and here's a fun fact. Colours and emotions are like besties. Physics even says that musical notes can match up with colour frequencies. And guess what? Whole foods, they've got colour, smell, taste. They're like full-on symphony for your senses. But toss in some fractured processed stuff or rely on too many supplements, you're basically creating disharmony in your body. Don't even get me started on brain vibes and frequencies. Turns out certain pulses affect everything from how we grow and perform. It's like the universe's own playlist. We're all dancing to the same beat, regardless of our language or culture. Wild, right? So back to Karmageddon. Let's talk about a major mix-up, treating your body like it's some throwaway thing. Time for some soul searching. Shake off those negative vibes and look at things from a fresh angle. Picture your body not as a lab rat, but as a sacred temple. Rewrite your mental script. focusing on how awesome your body really is. Let's pump up that positive image, boosting your self-worth. Now visualize rocking your future with its newfound respect. Stick with me for some cool tricks on keeping this mindset rolling. Perfect. Ever wonder how forgiveness could set you free? Or how you might inspire others if you knew your true impact? Picture feeling connected to everyone and everything around you. Imagine the fulfillment that comes with knowing your unique purpose in life. Alright, kicking addiction might seem daunting, but here's a friendly breakdown. Spot your triggers. Figure out what gets you into that addictive cycle. Stress, certain places or friends. Knowing your triggers is key. Lean on your crew. Don't tackle it solo. Chat with your buddies, family, even join a support group. Having folks in your corner makes all the difference. Find healthy swaps. Swap out those addictive habits for healthier ones. Get moving. Pick up a new hobby or chat with a pro. It's all about finding what works for you. It's a process, but these steps can help you steer towards a brighter, addiction-free path. You've got this. Alright, now it's your time to come out of hypnosis. Take your time. No rush. As you start to wake up, let your mind wander to all those healthy habits you're going to embrace. Picture yourself feeling more connected to the universe, finding peace within that connection. Now I want you to think about those things you can take responsibility for. It's okay to acknowledge where you might have slipped up or made mistakes. But remember, taking ownership is a powerful step towards growth and positive change. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes, stretch out, wriggle your fingers and toes. Welcome back. You're perfect, just as you are.